consistency is key. Just find a reasonable amount and then just go with that. My goal was not to have millions of dollars. My goal was to create a paycheck every month, which I really recommend for podcasters. Yes, you should get lots of guests on your show, but you should feature yourself on other people's show.
I kind of want to talk about some of the tactical aspects of it, like what are practical things people can start with today. So what would you say to someone that says, hey, I want to start my podcast? What would the first 2 or 3 steps be that you would tell them to do?
Good question. Figure out.
Well, Joel, thank you so much for being on the 1334 podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be on here, and we've already just done an episode with you on the Jesus Magnet podcast, and had a lot of fun. So yeah, it's good to jump on somebody else's podcast. It's really weird actually being on somebody else's podcast because you're used to doing all the questions, and now I got to do all the answers.
That's how I'm just
felt now.
So I wanted to interview you on podcasting itself. Maybe selfishly, but maybe not. I just really wanted to kind of dig into how to podcast and why it's important for nonprofits and missionaries to really share their story. But I really want to start with, what do you believe to be true about podcasting itself? Like, what beliefs do you have about podcasting?
It's a good question. I believe podcasting is one of the most underutilized forms of technology that we can use for the gospel. It is very simple and very easy to use. It's not complicated. I know you've made a few documentaries. I would put that in the complicated camp. That takes a lot of manpower, a lot of strength, a lot of stressful nights, a lot of editing to pull off. Podcasting is extremely simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can make it complicated, but it doesn't have to be complicated. You're working with 1 sense ears. As long as you got good audio, you're good. Where if you're doing a documentary, you got to have good audio. You've got to have good visual. You got to have good storytelling. You got to have good actors. You've got to have good lighting. You've got to have good environment. You got to have there's so much more elements to it. So I think podcasting is one of the most powerful, most underutilized forms of evangelism. And I encourage everybody to start using it for evangelism. Because all you need is a microphone, and then you can record. And by one click of the button, you are crossing borders to different countries, and you're talking to the world, really, which is really, really cool. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
No, yeah, definitely. And you answered my second question. I was going to ask why it's important. So that was perfect. In what ways could you see nonprofits, businesses, and church leaders using this platform?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. Particularly, let's go through churches to start with. There's some people in the world, in churches, in congregations, in Bible studies, in Christian communities that have a lot to say, and they never have a platform. They're never given the microphone to speak on stage, and maybe for a number of reasons, like you have to protect that stage in a way. You can't have lunatics on there just sharing whatever they had for breakfast. But the great thing about podcasting is it's editable, so you can have lunatics come on and share what they had for breakfast, and then just you don't have to post it, and nobody sees it. So it's powerful in the sense of you have a little more range for error. So that means you can invite more people to be on a podcast than you would than a church. If I was a pastor, I can't just invite everybody to come share their story. I might get 80% of the time, might get some incredible stories and incredible teachings from people. But that 20% of the time, you get some crazies, and it could do some serious damage to your church. Where podcasting is mitigates that 20% by the power of editing.
Oh yeah.
And so that's where it can fit in churches. You can give your congregation the ability to step out in their faith without the risk of sort of hurting your church or your ministry. Because, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a very what do they call it? Politically correct person. I say it how it is. There's crazy people in this world, and you don't want to give everybody a microphone. However, podcasting is a little different, where there's a lot of room for error, and the cool thing is people can step out and they grow. Like, I have a huge public speaking fear, massive. I hate public speaking, and I think almost everybody on the planet does. Is it something like one of the biggest fears, second biggest fear, or something like that? And when you're podcasting, you could be speaking to one person, but at the same time, you're actually speaking to hundreds, thousands, millions, who knows? But it doesn't feel like it, Like it's just you talking to one person, or you talking to yourself if it's like a solo podcast, as a guest, which I really recommend for podcasters. Yes, you should get lots of guests on your show, but you should feature yourself on other people's show. They have this fear of stepping out in public. I'm trying to remember what your question was. Something about churches and what was it?
Nonprofits and business leaders.
And business leaders and nonprofits. Cool. Yeah, basically all the same. We can all use podcasting in it's such an easy form to communicate to the masses. It really is. It's and it's pretty risk free as well.
Could you actually touch on your backstory a little bit? I know you were a business leader, right? And now you podcast full time. Could you touch on your
I come from a family full of investors, property investors. So I was taught from quite a young age how to borrow money from the bank, and how to create a report that I would bring to investors and to people and say, like, this is what I'm going to be investing in. This is why I think you should partner with me. We would often take these they're called feasibility studies and take them to the banks, and we would build properties and rent them out to people. So I was in that world for a long time, and I also would teach financial literacy to young high school kids and young adults in my spare time. We used a game called Cash Flow, which is a guy called Robert Kiyosaki, who is the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Basically, it's Monopoly, but it has a few more rules, and it's a bit more Monopoly on steroids. So my background was very much in the money space. I never became a rich person in the sense of I don't have millions of dollars in my bank account. But what I did create over those years was something called passive income, where I managed to. My goal was not to have millions of dollars. My goal was to create a paycheck every month that would pay for my rent, it would pay for my groceries, and it would pay maybe for a holiday or something like that. And then and the reason I did this actually was because I wanted my wife to not have to work. And if she wanted to be a stay-at-home mum, she could be. And I had no ambition to be in missionary work or anything like that. I was quite content with my life. And I just wanted my wife to have the option to not have to work when we had children. However, it took us 6 years to have kids. So we ended up really struggling to conceive. And I put all my focus into property and investing. But God had different plans. We ended up having a son called Zion, and God basically threw us into the missionary world with COVID. We lost our jobs and everything, and we would have really been in a lot of people were in much worse positions than we were, but we were saved by the fact that we had this cash flow from our investment properties.
Wow.
So we still had some paycheck coming in, and God just said to me, "Get testimonies heard." And I'd just abandoned everything basically, and we went and ended up dropping everything. I stopped all the investing and just went from financial investing guy to hardcore missions and only doing what God had asked us to do. And I think, I mean, in one sense, it's kind of like our tent making. Like, we didn't have to raise a whole lot of support to step out into missions. We had a steady amount of income that was like baseline. It's not rich or anything. It's just like it pays for food on the table, and yeah, like I've got my car has never been worth more than like $2,000 sort of thing. I don't try like you said at the beginning, just before the podcast started, you were talking about the TV, and never having anything new. We were very much like that. We lived within our means,
Mhm.
and we did it responsibly to be able to invest money. Was the idea? So no, I've never really been. My background was very different to what it is now, really.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think, I mean, I'm not really sure what God's wants from us regarding that. I do have a small passion to help missionaries, particularly missionaries, be a bit more financial stewards of their money,
That's
uh,
cool.
particularly for their retirement years. Because if they can learn how to do this investing a little early, then
Mhm.
when they do retire, most of the time, all of their supporters and their donators are retiring at the same time, and then they basically all stop giving to these missionaries all at once. So the missionaries try to retire, and then they've got no paycheck. But if they learn how to invest throughout their missions work, they would have, if somebody stopped giving to them, they've swapped it out with a form of investment income. So I've got a small passion for that as well. I'm not sure if God's going to take us into that role or not. At the moment, I'm just completely focused on testimonies, really.
It's powerful. I think you should definitely do some coaching with that. That's brilliant.
Oh, thanks, Blake.
So what ingredients would you say make or are key to like a growing podcast?
I wish I knew the answer to that.
Because yours is obviously growing.
Yeah, ours was good. We hit a funny statistic, which was we were in the top 5% for the most shared podcast. Not like the most listened to, but the most shared podcast. So basically what that meant is the guests that come onto our show, we tell them, share this with your friends, share this with your family, share this with somebody that's interested in your faith, but you've never had the chance to sit down and go through your faith with them. So people would record their episode with us and would send it over to them. And all of a sudden they would share it with like 10, 15, 100 people maybe. So our podcast became one of the highest shared podcasts, but it never like hit viral or anything like that. So our guests did a great job at sharing their episode with their circle of friends, but I'm not
That's
sure if it
cool.
broke out too much out of their circle of friends. Um, some have gone like pretty good, but the I think the biggest thing when it comes to podcasting is consistency. I think it's almost 95% of podcasts don't make it past the seventh episode. So if you're past the seventh episode, you're in basically the 5% of podcasts that survive the culling,
That's crazy.
I'm going to start a podcast and I'm really excited about it, but then you kind of get over it and you realize how much editing you've got to do and the flame dwindles. But yeah, consistency, try and figure out I'm going to do it weekly, I'm going to do it fortnightly, and have like 5 to 10 episodes ahead, so that if your child's sick or if you go on holiday or something like that, you have a buffer of episodes where you can go and not do any episodes for a little while.
Yeah.
For us particularly, just as an example for this, in March there was that major earthquake that happened here. I'm not sure if you saw some of my Facebook stuff, Blake, but our apartment was totally destroyed almost. The building didn't fall over, but like I had a wall that fell. Not most of the wall, some of the wall fell over, and I could see into the neighbor's apartment, and it was concrete, and we're on the 14th floor running for our lives. Very, very scary moment. And we had basically 2 months of content already edited, scheduled,
Wow.
and we were in no man's land. I did not have any of my gear, didn't even have a house, I didn't have my shoes. And we had to stay in friends' houses and Airbnbs, and the podcast just kept running by itself. Every week, the new episode just came out. It was already scheduled. So basically, my advice is stuff can happen. Prepare and be ahead of schedule, so you're not pressured to rush an episode and, make it. You'll know if it's rushed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you release weekly?
Yeah, weekly. And we're going to 2 a week soon. So we've got
Wow.
testimonies, normal people's testimonies on a Tuesday, and then we're getting 52 guests, one every week of the year, and they're kind of like unique believers. Some are hardcore evangelists, one's like a scientist, other people are businessmen, and we're sort of like
Cool.
talking to their topic. So it's a way for our listeners not only just to hear testimonies, but they can also hear sort of the niche areas of great believers and how they walk and how we can learn from them and stuff like that. So we're going to 2 a week by the end of the year. I've just got to build those months up.
Yeah. Right now I do every other week, and I'm trying to get to where I can do weekly. So I had like 3 or 4 already recorded and saved, and then the kids got sick for like 2 weeks, and so that pushed me back. So I ended up using that, and so it's been hard to, like you say, build up the episodes to where I can release weekly.
Yeah, almost trying to get to. I think the sweet spot's about 10 episodes ahead, and then you've got serious time. Like worst case scenario, you're never panicking. My 0 is 10, so after 10 I start to panic. But I never try and get more than 20, because then it's too long. Like you will record an episode with me and it's not out for like 6 months, and then it's like, oh, you kind of forget about it, and the guest is a little disappointed. So you got to have a sweet spot where it's a reasonable time frame, but you don't want it to be too quickly that it can mess with your stress levels if anything happens in your life.
Absolutely. So what I like that. I like the idea of consistency, because that's what I've done, video and documentary and editing, and now I'm trying to take to podcasting too, is trying to be super consistent, releasing every other week. I've got people at work talking to me like, hey, you should record a podcast with me, People are starting to see that I have a podcast. Like, this will be the 20th episode I release. So I know I'm past that 95% barrier. But my goal is to get to 100 episodes as quickly as I can. It might take me 2 years, another 2 years, but I'll be there at some point.
Consistency is key. Just find a reasonable amount, and then just go with that, and you'll get there. Like, it's, yeah. And then you got your own deadlines, and you can work on your workload as well. Like,
yeah.
Don't overcommit.
At 1334 Media, we believe your generosity doesn't have to be complicated. From planting churches in Thailand, helping orphanages in India, and even serving alongside our partners locally in South Georgia, every dollar you give helps another nonprofit tell their story, connect with supporters, and make a real impact. Your support fuels life-changing media and training that brings hope, awareness, and resources to causes that matter. These stories can't make a difference if they aren't heard. Join us today, because doing more doesn't have to mean doing it alone. I kind of want to talk about some of the tactical aspects of it, like what are practical things people can start with today. So what would you say to someone that says, hey, I want to start my podcast? What would the first 2 or 3 steps be that you would tell them to do?
It's a good question. Figure out what you're going to talk about. So if I were to look at my podcast, The Jesus Magnet, God told us to get testimonies heard. So what ended up happening when we first started, I got so excited about podcasting. We did get testimonies heard, but then we were like, let's do some discussion episodes where it's, we talk about aliens and predestination and the world being flat or round or whatever it is. Like, we just decided to talk about all this interesting, extra biblical topics. And then I had to remember God said get testimonies heard, and I had veered away from the reason that I was doing it. Have your reason and have it really clear, and don't deviate too much from it. And over time, God said to us, the reason I want you to do testimonies is because people are, speaking a little fast. The reason I want you to get testimonies is because people are experts in their life. And I'm talking about predestination and aliens and the tooth fairy, and I am not an expert in any of those topics at all. Yet people are hearing my podcast and they're believing that I'm an expert, and I'm actually bringing them down the wrong path.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my advice, if you're doing guests or anything, just stick to experts. And then if you've got your niche, stick to your niche. Try not deviate too much from it. And starting out, you don't need a whole lot of money. You can start a podcast with your phone these days. And I would record like it's live. Don't worry about the perfection of a podcast, because if you're starting something new, you're going to suck. I'm just going to tell you that right now. You're going to be terrible. Yep. But here's the great thing. You're starting at the bottom. There's only one way to go. You have to go. Every time you're going to get better. There's only one way to go, is up. So don't worry about being bad. Here's another secret. If you've just started a podcast, no one's listening to it. No one knows about you. This is the time to make mistakes. So you're not going to upload your first episode and have 1 million listens. No. Make mistakes. It's okay. Podcasting is, you're just going to learn as you go. And your first episode, man, please do not listen to my early episodes. Just listen to my recent ones, because my early ones, they're so bad, and they make me cringe when I listen to them. But at the end of the day, I kind of like to hear where I came from, like how
Yeah.
much we've grown as hosts, and how to present ourselves, and how to talk and articulate and be clear. Because having a New Zealand accent, I talk a little fast sometimes, and I mumble, and realize that most of the planet might not be able to understand the English that I'm speaking. It's, yeah. But it was early days, and the people that did listen to those episodes, like my mum and my grandma, they didn't care too much.
They understood you.
Yeah. Sorry?
They understood you.
Yeah, that's right. And they're like, oh, he's just learning. They got grace. So yeah, honestly, don't worry about perfecting your first episode. Just see how it goes. Just literally record it, throw it out there, throw it to a few friends, and say, "Can you honestly give me some feedback on what you thought?"
Yeah.
And don't be too critical on yourself. Like keep the episode up there. There's nothing wrong with it.
Don't take it
It's kind
personally
of
either.
cool to have an archive of how terrible you were, because it shows how far you came.
Exactly. That's kind of why I like my India documentary, the first one I did, and the Thailand one. They're both on YouTube. And it's cool to see so the Thailand documentary was the first one I ever made that I finished it and I was happy with it. Every other project I've ever done, I've finished it and I was like, I'm done, but it's not perfect. And I try to live by the done, not perfect, because if I try to make it perfect, it'll never be perfect and I'll keep working on it. But the Thailand one was the first one I finished, and I was like, I really want people to watch this.
Yeah.
Is it perfect? No, probably not. But I am really proud of it, and I feel like it's a really good example of what I can do if I'm writing, producing, directing, shooting, and editing something myself.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that I have to take that same mindset to podcasting. Like, do I suck? Yeah, probably. Am I bad on camera? Probably. Do I need to trim my beard? Definitely, all the time. But I'm working on it. You know what I mean?
I gave up on the trimming, but we didn't use visual for a long time, and I got away with it. But now we moved into the visual space, and my wife is like, "You look like a hobo."
My wife's the opposite. She doesn't care ever. And so half the time, the only time I look in my face is when I brush my teeth and I don't think about it again and I leave and I don't see my face the rest of the day. And till someone's like, "Hey, you need to trim your beard, dude. Your neck beard is looking bad." I'm like, "Oh, okay." My wife never. How do I look? Yeah, fine. She's always like that. She doesn't care. How's my hair?
My wife didn't care too much until we went visual, like until we started getting a few cameras, and she's like, "You're getting a haircut this week."
My wife's asked
And
me to
now
way.
I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice anyway. Once you're married, it's like, whatcha? It was pretty. She's amazing, my wife. It's actually her 30th birthday tomorrow. That's
Really?
cool.
Well,
Yeah.
happy birthday to her.
Yeah, actually, it's probably her birthday where you are right now. Is it like the second? Or you said the
I'm
first?
12 hours behind you.
Oh, you're the other way. Sorry, back in New Zealand, where we're from, it's her birthday. But here in Thailand, it is not her birthday.
That's wild.
It is wild. Yeah.
It's
In the future. So if the zombies come or the aliens come, New Zealand will know first. You're in the future.
it will. My brother is in Japan, and so he's in the future for us. He told us happy birthday, or not happy birthday. I told him happy birthday a day late, and he told us Merry Christmas a day early.
Yeah.
I always ask him. I always ask him how the future is. So,
Yeah.
um, a little more tactical. So, how would somebody go about finding guests for their podcast?
Yeah, well, there's like a million different Facebook pages, and I'm not sure about Instagram. I need to get better at Instagram, but on Facebook, there's loads of pages and groups that you can get some incredible guests. Um,
What would you
one
look up
thing that's sorry.
for Facebook? Like, how do you find those groups?
Oh, you just look up like podcast guests.
Really?
Then there's a group that's like literally there's like 20,000 people in this group, and
Oh,
yeah,
geez,
it's
I didn't
like
know that.
guest. They need to be an expert in dinosaurs, or whatever it is, and then you'll probably get someone. You're like, it's incredible, and then you can also put yourself as a guest, which I really recommend for podcasters. Yes, you should get lots of guests on your show, but you should feature yourself on other people's show, like we're doing right now,
Yeah.
and you do guest swaps too. Like, you come on my show and I'll come on your show. And that actually does really well too. Honestly, the amount of, uh, Joe Rogan, who's the legend, there's so many people that have been guests on his show, and then their podcast blew up after being a guest on his show.
Yeah.
Like, it had nothing to do with their show. It was because they were featured on somebody else's podcast. So
Yeah.
get yourself out there, um, and
That's
get your
brilliant.
face out there, get your voice out there. Yeah.
So, what would if someone's doing that, they're finding guests online, what would you recommend using to record a podcast online?
Good one. So I use something called Riverside, which is it's built for podcasting. It's really, really good. Um, you don't need, like, it's not going to eat up all your storage on your computer because it's all in it's in like a web browser. So you do have to have good internet. But the great thing about this is when you're a little plug for Riverside, I suppose, an unpaid one. Uh,
For now.
basically, basically, on my camera and my microphone is recorded onto my computer and then uploaded onto Riverside separately, and then the guest or the host, it's the same thing on their computer. Their microphone and their camera is recorded and uploaded separately, and then it sort of blends them together. Um, so
That's
that,
cool.
let's say if the internet drops out, then and you couldn't hear them, the final cut has perfect camera and no internet drops. Um, it sort of weaves it all together really well. So I really rate Riverside as a pretty good program. If you're looking at equipment, I use Rode stuff. As you can see, my microphone here, Rode. I find Rode has got some of the best equipment in the world. Really simple, built for
Is that the
podcasting. And I also
Roadcaster?
use something called a Rodecaster Pro. Yeah, I've got one of those. And that's basically like a little DJ set that lets you mix and match your guests and your voice, and it's pretty user friendly as well. So, and you can, I'm not sure what everyone's budget is, but you can get like I think relatively affordable setups for podcasting at the start. I don't know what would be an affordable rate. Maybe like $500 US, you would be able to have everything.
Yeah.
Where if you were to do a documentary, I don't know how much money you need for that, but it's not $500.
That's one lens.
Yeah.
I actually had somebody, they donated a check. I was talking to him about my nonprofit stuff, and he was like, "How much do you need right now?" I said, "Well, I'm borrowing, so I've done this whole podcast borrowing equipment. there's a um, marketing agency in town called TMG Studios, and for years they let me borrow anything. I took their drone to India, like, or no, I took their drone to Thailand. Um,
Wow.
that I was like, hey, I'm going to
Yes.
Thailand. Could I borrow a drone? They were like, yeah, you can take our backup one. So if you die in Thailand, then we don't miss it. I was like, okay. Uh, they've let me borrow podcasting equipment, lenses, cameras, whatever I needed. They just let me borrow it. Huge supporter of
Awesome.
1334. They used to have a studio right down the street, and so I'd go record interviews and everything set up. They have amazing lighting, they have everything. And so I'd go set up interviews and do full documentary setups. I did one for um, human trafficking here in Albany, and just about every interview was shot in their studio. Um,
Wow.
and so they've let me use all sorts of stuff for free. But I was at the point where, like, if he has a shoot and I have a shoot, I can't use their equipment. And
Mm.
so someone just donated a check to buy all the podcasting, everything. I have the Rode arm and um, the Shure mic, and so we were able to
Awesome.
afford really nice podcasting equipment. So I
That's
have two of these
fantastic.
mics, and
We have a similar story when it comes to our equipment. So I was like, when God said to us, "Do get testimonies heard," I just took that as like hearing. Like basically, I said, what do you mean, Lord?" And I prayed about it with my wife, and she's like, "You think it means a podcast?" And I'm like,
hope
"Maybe
not.
hearing." And so we just prayed about it, and then a bunch of my buddies were like really keen to do it with me, so we just went 25% each. So
Really?
now, but we agreed. We said this is going to be for testimonies, and if you decide you don't want to be part of it anymore, you have to leave your money in. Like nobody's buying you one,
Why?
so it's donated as a ministry, whether you're in it or not. And they were like, "Yeah, that's cool." So, which was really cool because it, you know that 7 episode thing
Yeah.
that we were talking about. It kind of happened with our early hosts. So
Really?
I'm the only one standing,
Wow.
and the other hosts, like, well, I mean, one guy he had to go back to America from New Zealand, and another guy he had to move up to the north of New Zealand into the north of the South Island because his dad was really sick. And then another guy, he just ended up not really being interested anymore. So at the end of the day, I ended up only spending about 25%,
Wow.
instead of me having to pay for the full 100%. But like they consider it like it's a ministry, and they're like really stoked that it's still going, whether they're a part of it or not. They just think it's great. Just didn't end up being their cup of tea. Um, but what we had is God told us to do this in December. And then, like a week later, we bought all the gear, but I wasn't able to pick it up because of Christmas. It was Christmas Day, and then
Really?
I told my buddy to go pick it up. Um, and he shows up on Boxing Day, so the next day after Christmas. And because it was Boxing Day, there was this crazy 75% sale
Whoa.
just because we picked it up that day because we hadn't paid for it. We just ordered it, and
That's crazy.
so like we were like all a little worried about the upfront cost. Um, but it ended up being really affordable
Yeah.
for all of us.
What what mic would you recommend starting with? What mic and what camera would you recommend starting with? Just your phone?
Oh, if you can get a Rode mic, this is called the Rode Pod mic. I love this mic. Um, but and I started with this, so we just went and because I did it with like three other guys, so there's four of us. We just split the cost, and that's what when it gets cheap. So if you want to do a podcast, especially if you want to do it with like a few people, um, if you can convince them to go in on it with you, and you sort of this is going to be the thing. You kind of want to, say like let's pool our money together and get the setup. If you want to leave, you can, but try like kind of convince them to keep the money in the show or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because people do get over it. They sometimes, yeah. Um, what
Do you think
microphone would
people
I
need to
recommend?
start with a
Yeah,
light?
see, I started with the Rode stuff. I would just go with the Rode pod mic and camera. I haven't had a camera until like last week, and we've got this one here.
The Sony, is that the 6000?
The ZVE10.
10? Yeah.
And that is the reason I got that is because it's kind of the entry level camera for uh good cameras,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to have the ability to do long haul podcasts, so more than a couple of hours, and it's not going to explode with heat. It's not going to die with batteries. It's going to survive. Going to survive
Yes.
the recording, and it's the demand of the recording that it's going to be on. So yeah, I got 3 of those cameras, one for each guest, and then one for like
A wide.
a wide shot for 2 people.
Yeah.
Um, mm,
Those are good cameras. I would recommend they make little, I don't know if you have one, but they make little plug-ins, like an AC DC adapter that you can plug into the
yeah,
battery and then plug it into a
got
wall.
one coming. Yeah, it's the dummy battery that goes straight into
Yeah.
the wall outlet. Yeah,
Yep.
I've got one of those coming. It's really hard to get those in Thailand. So
Is it
I
really?
got through some dodgy ass website to get it. So I'm hoping it
Should have
shows up.
just let me know. I'll get one here, Amazon, and just mail it to you.
I might do that. Yeah, give me a bit of time and hopefully it comes. If it comes, great then. But if it doesn't, I'll message you.
If not, let me know. Maybe you
Yeah.
just send me some snacks. Uh
Yeah.
Corey and I lived off of, so we're so used to waking up early for work, and we'd wake up early while we were there, and the only thing open was the 7, so we'd walk over to 7-Eleven and grab snacks and go back and have snacks and a Red Bull or something and try different
Honestly,
energy drinks.
the worst stuff at 7-Eleven, you can get is it like it's a bread with butter and in a
Yeah.
packet, like buttered bread. It's
They
Can you
Corey was
imagine how
always eating
gross?
the sandwiches. He was always getting those sandwiches. I think one of them was like a pulled pork or something. He would take it and they'd go and make it right there for him. He was like, "That's so cool! They're making my sandwich." So
Yeah,
he got a few of those. He loved those things.
those are pretty good. Yeah.
They actually taste pretty good, but it was definitely weird to see it in this puffed up bag.
Tyler does their food really well. Like that's one
They
thing you
do.
love about living here is the food's exceptional. Like we're never um worried about the flavor or anything like that. It's always just so good, so authentic, a little bit spicy sometimes, but if you get a taste for that, man, the food's
Yeah.
so good.
We tried everything we could. It was amazing. Uh,
So
that's that's one of the things I kept sending my wife pictures of the stuff I was eating every day. I was like, this stuff is just so good. Like
yeah,
I've never been to a place where every single meal you eat is an experience.
yeah, man,
And it was
it's
it was like that
for
for the
real.
people that live there.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh
They load every food up with MSG. It's like
yes.
flavor enhancement thing that basically gives you diabetes. So it's so good, but real bad for your body.
It tastes great though.
Yeah, it tastes good. At least you die with a full tummy.
Oh yeah. So what sort of software do you use? Do you do any editing in like Adobe or anything like that?
Yes, I use CapCut for
Okay.
most of it, and for the thumbnails, I use Canva, and
So
then
what
to
you're telling
upload
me
all. What's that?
So what you're telling me is that anybody can start this and they can do it with all free software, like I've been trying to tell people.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
You're running a
I'm
successful podcast using Canva and CapCut.
yeah, and
That's crazy.
Audacity a little bit. But
That's free
yeah,
too, isn't it?
yeah.
Dude,
None of it costs, man. I mean, I pay for premium CapCut, premium CapCut and premium Canva, but I use it every day. So
yeah.
I like we've made our money's worth for sure. And even if you are paying for that, like $200 for the year or something like that. If you're thinking of like a any other business, any other, let's say you take up painting or something like that, you're going to be spending the same money on paint and
Yeah.
paintbrushes.
In
Like
a
if
week.
that's going to be your new hobby, it's still very much in the affordable range. If you're going for the premium features, but totally optional. You don't have to have them. It's yeah.
Have
I
you heard
suppose
of
don't
the
start with the premium, and then if it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, then move into the premium stuff. So yeah.
have you heard of the video department with Omar El Katori, I think his name is?
No.
His podcast is one. So I'm a bit of a podcast connoisseur, I guess. I listen to podcasts nonstop because I drive so much. Um, and when I found his podcast, I binged it. Like, I think I listened to 10 or 11 episodes the first week, which is probably too much. But
It's awesome.
his podcast is brilliant. It's all like video, YouTube, and business related. Um, but he did a whole podcast on podcasting itself. And one of the things he said and recommends is that you should sell what's the word? Sponsor. He said you should sponsor your own podcast. He said don't try and get money from Google on YouTube. Don't try and get paid by Google or hope some sponsor finds you. He said just immediately sponsor your own podcast. And so that's one of the things I've done with the 1334 podcast is I put an ad in here. It's like, hey, if you want to do more and you want to help people, then you can donate to 1334 and we do it right here. You don't have to do anything extra. If you want to start helping people with your funds, then you can donate here. And so I think sponsoring your own podcast is an amazing way to get started. Because I think a lot of people think that you kind of have to start and find a sponsor. Oh, let's hope who's AG1's on every podcast I listen to. Let's hope AG1, finds
Yeah.
me and I have to tell people to drink their greens or some crap like that. But in reality, you could probably start making money doing it pretty early on if you sponsored it yourself.
That's true. Yeah. I would also add on to that to not I probably wouldn't go in the podcasting world to make money.
Oh, yeah.
It's very it's probably like if you are going to make money, it might take a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're prepared to do that, then that's a little different. But you want to do it for the love of it because
Mm-hmm.
it if you're doing it for the money, you probably get, unless you're super famous or something like that, and you can start a. Do you remember when Jack Black made a YouTube account, and he
I
was the
think so.
first ever YouTuber with like, I don't know, 500,000 subscribers with 0 videos.
I think
Like,
I think you have to if you don't I think you have to think about it as podcasting is educating and building an audience. It has nothing to do with like becoming somebody or making some kind of money. Like I think that's what YouTube used to be, but
yeah,
now I think it's so hard to even get $100 from YouTube to get monetized the first time. I've been putting YouTube videos under 1334 for like 5 years, and we just now got 1,000 subscribers. Like, I think it's not easy, and I think a lot of people will find it difficult to stay consistent. If consistency is the key, I think
Yeah.
if you're going in with the wrong mindset, you'll definitely end up wanting to quit.
It's true. Yeah. It's so true. I mean, our podcast it still doesn't make money. Like I mean, it makes money in the sense of like people have partnered with us as missionaries that have a podcast. So we do lots of like discipleship work here in Thailand, and we go on outreaches and things like that. But and we have a podcast. That's like the biggest part about us. But at the end of the day, we see ourselves as missionaries, like every other missionary. And it's not a lot. Like we don't have a lot of support. And if I was solely relying on our podcast, I mean, I've been doing it for like 4 or 5 years. I wouldn't be able to do it. Wouldn't be able to solely rely on that as income. But yeah, it's such a powerful thing to do. Everyone should, if you're thinking about doing a podcast, you should definitely do it. Yeah.
Especially if it's free to start, you know what I mean? It's just like running. Like how do you know you're going to like running unless you put shoes on and go do it? You know what I mean? You don't need anything fancy.
I ran one.
I've run before.
Just once, though. You were telling me about your running, weren't you? You were quite into it, weren't you?
I'm starting to. So the chairman of my board, good friend of mine, the guy that went to Thailand with me, he's one of those annoying people that's just athletic for no reason. Like he can just do stuff. I was doing jujitsu, and he started jujitsu, and then within 2 weeks, I was like, "Oh, good Lord, I have to like actually fight against this guy." And I'd been doing it for 2 years, and then he decided one day that his friend signed up for a marathon. He was like, "You want to do a marathon?" He said, "Sure, I'll do that." And he trained, but it's not like he was running, 40 miles every week training. But he went and did a marathon and did it in 4.5 hours. And I was like, if he can do a marathon, surely I can, right? And so I've been trying to get better at running, which I am short and not fit, not athletic, and so it is very painful. But maybe one day I'll be able to do a marathon.
Yeah, it's not my thing. I mean,
No.
Back in the day, back when the dinosaurs roamed, and I had one of my first jobs, I was a trampoline coach
What?
for skiers and snowboarders. So you got trampolines, right? Little trampolines. You get bigger, and you get Olympic trampolines, and then you get bigger again, and you get super trampolines. So I trained athletes on super trampolines, skiers and snowboarders, how to do their tricks using trampolines. And they would wear like snowboards and skis on these trampolines. My job was to teach them how to do their tricks.
So you can do backflips and everything?
Yeah. And
Wow.
I, for like years, had the most incredible six pack. And then I did not realize I just thought this was my metabolism. Because it was just like the job just came with the body, basically. Like you're on the trampoline all the time. It's not, you don't even feel like you're working out, but you actually are. Yeah. And just over time, my body got really, really built. Not like bodybuilder built, but it was funny because the moment I stopped doing that, I exploded. I got so fat so quickly. I had no idea. Like, because I used to eat McDonald's every week and anything, and nothing would change my weight. And then all of a sudden I stopped this job and now it's got fat so fast.
Not working out anymore.
Yeah. And, but yeah, I really need to get back into some sort of fitness these days. It's hard in Thailand because it's so hot.
Yeah.
I don't want to go outside and exercise.
So here where I live, the weather was almost identical to Thailand. And I found out that was it the um longitude, I think?
Yeah.
I give them it's within a few hundred feet. Where I live and Chiang Mai is almost exactly the same longitude. So
Really?
same distance from the equator and everything. And so it was crazy because the same temperature in Thailand, I looked at my phone, it's like, oh, it's the exact same temperature at home. And so it was like the same thing and same humidity. And
Oh,
a lot of people call this the armpit of Georgia because it just feels gross all the time. And so it was pretty crazy to be there. And so it kind of felt like home, especially when it rained. It rains all the time here. And so
oh,
it rained while we were there, and I was like, "Oh, we're back at home."
that's so
It was
interesting. Huh,
I found it
didn't
really.
realize.
A lot of people move away from here because of the weather.
Oh, true. Yeah. I mean, I'm from this beautiful town in New Zealand called Queenstown,
Really,
and we have like mountain ranges, and it basically looks like Lord of the Rings
Lord of the Rings.
everywhere.
Yep.
It's just amazing. Real beautiful place. Um,
What a blessing.
yeah. So I'm very happy to live in Chiang Mai because there's mountains here as well, but these mountains are tiny here. I'm not used to small mountains. The mountains
We have
be
no mountains here.
no.
Nothing. We have to. If you drive a few hours north, you start getting into the Appalachians and all that.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah. So
what?
you have flatland.
Yes, it has hills, but it's
Mm.
20 foot of elevation. uh, so how would you recommend? Because we just went off a tangent. We just had this conversation, so it got me thinking. How would you recommend somebody getting better at conversing, for their podcast? And then I guess we could start wrapping it up after that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm still learning that every day, and I think a friend of mine said, "Joel, you have two ears and one mouth, so I need to listen twice as much as I speak." And that's pretty good advice, I think, for a podcaster, especially if you're doing interview ones. Like you can speak; it's not a monologue, but make sure you give a guest a space to speak themselves and for you to listen. Um, and then not be afraid of pauses as you're speaking and going through. Like if you just got to stop and conduct yourself, it's
Mm-hmm.
actually okay. Um, oh yeah, and I'm really bad at this, but working on your ums and your ahs to stop those fluffer, fuller words.
Like,
That's one that you got to practice, like
yeah,
very diligently practice that, and replace it with a pause instead of an Yeah. What was your
I'm
question?
really bad at that. No, just about how do you practice conversations and get better at it.
Mm, yeah, yeah, that would be. I think that basically answers that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So how could somebody get connected with you if they want to support the Jesus Magnet and tune into the podcast?
Yeah. So shouldn't have said
Um,
we are on the. If you look up the Jesus Magnet, it will show up on all major platforms: Spotify, Apple, uh, Google Podcasts. We're also got a website, thejesusmagnet.com. And if you want to get in touch with me, I can just put my email down below, which is thejesusmagnet@gmail.com. Just nice and simple. So yeah, and I would encourage anybody, if they have a testimony, if they're a Christian and they want to share their testimony, how Jesus radically transformed them, you have a spot on our show. We would love to hear your story. And just send us an email. That's the easiest way. We're also on all social medias, Instagram, Facebook. Just look up. We're not on TikTok.
I hate TikTok.
Yeah. Just haven't quite bothered to do another social media. Get a bit swamped with all the social medias these days.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the way to connect with us.
Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Blake. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thank you.